Welcome to OTR, Over the Rainbow, Achieving Mental Health for Real. This podcast offers hope to many people who needlessly suffer from mental health issues. Your host, Bob Adelman, brings you information on how you can recover from any mental health issue and achieve a happier life. Each episode interviews experts like doctors, counselors, and life artists who give helpful tips on living a happier life. But most importantly, Bob interviews ordinary people who have suffered with a mental health issue, some on the brink of or attempted to take their own lives. Each one has recovered to lead a much happier life. Most of the guests have books or websites with more info that you can use for recovery. You can do it too. Bob's notes on today's show follows.
Today's guest is Susan Gold, who suffered from the trauma of her childhood home. She talks about her family in her book, Toxic Family: Transforming Childhood Trauma into Adult Freedom. I think her book would resonate with many people who suffer with PTSD caused by family dysfunctionality. She talks about the practical tools and worksheets in the book that will guide you on your way to adult freedom. We go through one simple technique which may help. So, relax and listen to Susan as she talks about her recovery from childhood trauma to a place where she can enjoy life.
Hello, Susan. How are you today?
Hey, Bob. I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Welcome to the show. Could you tell the audience a little bit about yourself first?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I'm a new author. I just had my memoir published in March, and I'm a coach, and I am now living in rural Montana after living in New York City and Los Angeles for most of my adult life.
Okay, that sounds good. So your book, I saw, was called Toxic Family. So your book is about your childhood?
So first, I just want to say Toxic Family was not my title. It was actually my publisher's title. And it is the truth, but my title was Magical Illumination because that's what I feel like it's been. But the book is more about a toxic family and then how to transform childhood trauma into adult freedom. And it is the personal and professional story of my life here on Earth so far anyway, Bob. And I was encouraged to write a book since 2007, but I really didn't want to go through the process. But it's actually been pivotal to piecing all the parts to the story together. And I actually appreciate all the roles that my family members played. And it extends through the lineage. Just let's suffice it to say it was hurt and abused children raising hurt and abused children.
Yeah, I can relate to that. So your family, where were you in the picture? You had siblings, I take it?
Yeah, my father is a genius astrophysicist.
Wow.
And my mother was equally as genius, but they were both riddled with their own forms of addiction and I believe mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the middle of 5 children. I have an older brother and sister and 2 younger brothers, and we all have our own unique interpretation of being raised in that family system.
So who was the superhero?
Well, that would be my oldest brother.
Okay.
He was absolutely the hero, and I certainly was being the middle child. I played more of the lost child and placater, pacifier in the family, I'd have to say.
Did you get dumped on the most, or did that go to the youngest?
Well, I don't know. I've been told that I was the one to keep the peace and keep the family dynamic together. And I was certainly an empath, and I was quite intuitive and telepathic at points until that became, really too dangerous. But those elements also helped me stay alive in that circumstance. Yeah.
Well, except for the PTSD that you probably suffered from, were you diagnosed with anything else as an adult or as a child?
Not as a child, no, certainly not as a child, but the suicidal inclination started early. I was 6 and I was in the kitchen alone, and I pulled out one of the knives that was used to cut meat and was fascinated by the blade, wondering if I could get the courage to just lance it through my tiny little chest and it would all be over. And that's when I heard my mother's thundering voice, and I stuck that knife back in that block quickly and shut the doors. But I've had real struggles with urges of suicide and clinical depression, periods of clinical depression. But that was not diagnosed until I was in my early adulthood.
And these depressions, were they long, or did they get? Did you have to take medication for them, or just psychotherapy?
So when I was young, I placated with food to soothe myself, and also copious amounts of exercise and activity. That's what really kept me sane. But I'd say in my early 20s, I realized that I had an issue with alcohol, just as my father had. So I cleaned up from that, but about 4.5 years into my recovery, I realized that I had an issue, a serious issue with depression. There was a work project that I was involved with, and I was in the middle of 2 parties trying to bring them together. And that's exactly what I did in my own family, between my own parents growing up. And it just triggered some intense trauma. And I split out of my body and was basically catatonic. But I was really lucky in that I had really good friends, and they saw the signals. And they were really integral in getting me to a treatment center. And that's where I learned I had an issue with my serotonin levels, and that medication would help, Bob. But I really fought it. I didn't want to take any type of pharmaceutical medication. But finally I did surrender, and it did help me. I used it off and on for about 10 years. And it was my experience that once I really learned the signs that I was in a depressive state, I could sort of nip it in the bud, so to speak, whereas I didn't fall as far. And ultimately, I got to a point where I didn't need medication, but I used other tools, like meditation was profoundly helpful, and physical exercise was helpful. And then also, just having support around me and a more stable platform to really confide in what was happening in my daily life.
Right. Everybody's different. With me, my body was just not made to be happy. I mean, the brain is missing the dopamine or whatever serotonin that it needs. I have a really bad ADHD, and OCD is awful. But as far as my family goes, my brother was a genius, and he was 11 years older than me, and I had a sister who was kind of like me, and then I had a brother a year older than me who was perfect for this world. A perfect salesman. Everybody listens to him. All of that. So what happened to me is I developed a phobia of speaking that I feel to this day, to this minute, because I used to get interrupted, belittled, and I would get nervous and then screw up more. And it's happening to this day because I just spent some time with them, and it was very, very unpleasant. I'm kind of recovering from it. But that was my dynamics, and I called a perfect storm. Okay, but I didn't have addiction, but I think I was addicted as far as the OCD is concerned. I was addicted to rituals. and I had many rituals. You didn't have any kind of ritualistic thinking.
Well, first, I just want to applaud you because for someone that has fear of speaking or had fear of speaking, you certainly don't emanate that. Certainly, as a host,
I'm a very good
show.
I'm a very good actor, but inside I suffer. Before the show, after the show, during the show. Normally during the show, I'm at my best because my body has learned to be nervous to up my dopamine. So when I get to where I have to go, I can do it. I excel in a lot of cases, but my body, it just feels it all the time. So, I'm working really hard to get better with everybody else in this podcast. And, the reason I started it is because I think there's a lot of misconceptions. You had mentioned that you didn't want to get on medicine. That's good, but I think people need to exhaust everything else first, but don't overlook medicine. Don't say, I'm not going to go on medicine. Because sometimes it could save you a very bad, severe depression like I had.
And I believe the same. In my case, I was under 5 years clean and sober at the time. So I didn't understand the difference between, drugs or abuse of drugs and then the actual medication that was non-addictive that I was given for the treatment to bring my serotonin levels up to where I could actually do the work. And it took a young, very young, angelic fellow addict that was in the same treatment center. She said to me, if you were brought to the hospital and they did blood work and they said, here's your issue and we can show you on paper and here's the solution that we know of, would you take the medication? And put that way, it was like a no-brainer.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is, I just want to mention it's Mental Health Month. And I just think it's important that people like myself, see, my childhood was semi-normal. I guess I was a little bit of a spoiled child, but I was happy, like everybody else, happy at times. It's not until I hit puberty that all of this set in like a bomb. And for years, first of all, I didn't understand ADHD and I didn't understand depression and what could treat depression. I had my first episode, I thought the way I was feeling, I would feel forever. Like I had hit some road where they're just going to lock me away in a padded room and that's it. So that added to the fear of the moment, and it was just awful beyond words. But I came back with the medicine, and the first thing they did was give me a Xanax to calm me down because I was going like panicky. I was very panicky. And, I like to think that people do at least consider the medicine, but also try to follow everything else, which is exercise, eat right. I don't eat right to this day. I don't know about you. Have you got into a good routine or?
So I've also had a journey when it comes to food. My mother tried to find soothing through food and was a compulsive overeater, and she was prescribed diet pills, which was speed at the time for her circumstance. It's been a long, slow recovery with food. And I've had a love-hate relationship with it, but I'm probably the healthiest I've ever been because I have developed a sense of self and a sense of value and worth as an individual and a lot of compassion. I would say I had that for others, but I didn't have that same capacity for myself. It took a lot of recovery to get to that point, and that's really given me so much freedom. So, yeah, I sometimes ask myself, is this the kindest thing I can do for myself? When it comes to food, and that's really helped me. Using that tool has really helped me nurture myself through food and with nutrition.
Yeah, my problem is that my person I live with brings in the sugar like crazy. She also has depression, and her answer is to take a lot of pills at night and eat a lot of sugar during the day. So it makes it almost impossible to stay away from because I have a sweet tooth. But I'm trying harder. I'm going to try harder. And the other thing is that over the years I developed real bad, I guess you can call it arthritis and numbness in my legs. So I pretty much plant myself in a recliner, and I don't feel like getting up. I don't feel like the pain of getting up and the pain of walking. So, but I have to, and I encourage everyone to do it. It's probably the hardest thing to do in your recovery. Not anybody can take a pill or go to a psychiatrist or a counselor, but to actually do things for yourself. Like I interviewed this guy. He actually had really bad bipolar, and he would go into real bad manic states. And he changed his diet completely, and he exercises regularly, and he hasn't had an episode since. So I applaud people that can do that. It's not easy for me to do because of my age and because of my disability, physical disability. But my plan is to heal my inside and hope that that heals the outside as well.
Well, that's been the truth for me. You just hit on a pivotal piece of the puzzle. For a long time, it was the outside in. That was the natural place for me to go to the outside to fix it. But you are totally correct. It all comes from the inside. That's where the magic really is.
I think because of my background and all the pain that I've gone through, it finally made its way into wherever it is. I didn't start this podcast to save myself, but it might end up that way. Like I said, I started it for that 11-year-old boy somewhere who doesn't understand why he has to wash his hands so much, or, shower all day, or any one of them, any rituals. I have a thing where I actually have to look at a picture just right, or else I feel like that person is going to get hurt or die. So I know how it feels. But there is medication that makes it better. And I am better. I'm just not perfect. I'm a lot better. I have happy moments. And then I also have, sad times. That's kind of natural. I never had happy moments in my adult life, other than if I was drinking, if you call those happy moments. But that's the way I dealt with my fears of talking. I would drink a lot and it would go away. I don't know how to do the middle. As an adult, as a father, I knew what to do and I did it. And if someone like a doctor comes to me, I listen to the doctor. But, I just don't have it all working for me yet. But I'm planning that, that, like I said, heal from the inside and hope that it helps the outside. I know losing weight will help, but I don't know how much. But the one thing I did want to ask you about is, what is the theme of your book? And I don't think we gave the full title.
So the full title of the book is Toxic Family, Transforming Childhood Trauma into Adult Freedom. And I think if we go back in our histories, honestly, most of us can find, one character somewhere that may have had toxic tendencies. But I think it's a taboo topic, and it's something that we don't generally prefer to bring up as a culture. So, honestly, I left my family home the morning after I graduated from high school, and I didn't often go back. And it was a lot of years, decades of examination and different therapeutic modalities to help me sort of piece together my past. It was almost like Sherlock Holmes putting the pieces of the puzzle together. But I didn't really understand the degree to which the toxicity was playing out in my family, and there's a lot of love there as well. But until I was having issues of my own, like issues with alcoholism and realizing I had to get sober, and the depression, and then becoming involved in narcissistic relationships. And my self-esteem was battered. My value was trashed. And I did the best I could stepping up. And I was very brave, and I was very successful in my career. But ultimately, to become a fully evolved human being, I had to tease out layers of my past history so I could truly walk freely. And the perfect storm for me, Bob, probably was my divorce. My marriage was way over my expiration date, and I didn't want my family to fall apart. I wanted to succeed.
Right.
And that was not to be. And it really helped me to step into my authentic power. I mean, people from the outside would say, you're so accomplished, you're so independent, you're so capable, you're so powerful. But I didn't feel that inside of me.
Right. Not a lot of people do. And, if you want to talk about what's going on in his world, that's basically it. I mean, my brother is a genius, but he's as insecure as I know. Because, for instance, if I do computer stuff, so I wanted to give him some advice. No, I don't want to like you. What are you talking about? Blah, blah, blah. So I'm constantly looked at as the person that doesn't know anything in the family, not to go to. And then when I talk, they cut me off. So naturally, I developed a problem when I talk to people. I feel like they're going to cut me off, or they're not going to listen to me. That's the other thing. I have this invisible shield that comes out, and it seems like, if there's a crowd of people, I can't get a word in edgewise, because one of the problems is with ADHD, you don't know when to talk. So I constantly cut people off, and they wind up not liking me, and so on and so forth. And anyone with ADHD has the exact same story, that it's just a terrible thing that nobody, if you try to explain to anybody, they're like, well, yeah, I have that too, and all that kind of stuff. But they can't imagine, having to proofread something 45 times. So it, it's a long road for me, and I'm not sure where I'm at, but it sounds to me like you're getting it all together. Is that pretty close?
Well, I'll tell you what, I just admire that you have the ability to know where you are and to be honest with who you are. And that awareness is so pivotal, because many of us don't have the awareness. And then I had to accept my circumstance and then take actions. And I wasn't afraid to ask for help, and I humbled myself. But I also saw my life trajectory and my experiences, my challenges, as opportunities for soul evolution and to learn. And that really shifted a lot for me in my own reality. And that's really helped me stand up and move through these challenges and move through with love and appreciation.
Mm-hmm. How do you handle your family now?
I engage with my family. I think when COVID happened, I was the one that organized the Zoom calls, and I appreciate the engagements. I don't see them often. We all are sort of scattered, so we don't often connect, and we never were a family to, follow up and check in or do daily, weekly, monthly calls. And I have an appreciation for all of them because we all walked through fire in our own way, even the ones that may not quite see it in that way. We've all faced it.
Have your siblings recovered a bit? Because my two main problems were my brothers, and they're the exact same way they always have been. They haven't really recovered at all, in my opinion. But has your family recovered a little bit?
I think that we've all changed. I think we've changed over the years, and there are some that have done a little more inner work than others. But I think that we're all asking the questions, and we're all exploring in our own ways. We may be vibrating on different levels, different frequencies, but I think we're all open. And I think there is genuine love at the core of it all, which I'm really profoundly grateful for.
Yeah, I have no question that my brothers love me and I love them, but they're ill as far as they shouldn't be that insecure that I can't give them a GPS address, look on the GPS to find the place. It's just ridiculous. And he'll go and say, well, you're making me nervous. Okay, I'm trying to help. But, I'm used to helping in that way with other people. But when I get to my family, I'm invisible. I sat, we went out after the wake, and I sat on one table and the rest of my family went to the other table. So that gives you just a little idea how much I'm a non-entity in that family as far as I don't know what, and it shouldn't bother me. I mean, I was a little disappointed that I let it bother me so much, but it's difficult because I'm so aware of their problems and how they're spreading it on me that I don't really know what to do as far as getting away from them forever. I mean, I can do that to a point, but I have to see them once in a while. And I don't know how that can become healthy for me. Because, with the ADHD, I have trouble speaking. I forget words. I forget what I'm saying. I say things that interrupt people. Or someone will say something to me, and I'll get what they're saying, but they still want to go and talk. And I'll just interrupt and say, oh, yeah, I get that. So those are the things that I face. And it sounds to me like you're much further along recovery. Would that be an accurate statement? Or
well, I've had incredible opportunities, and I've also been very open to asking for help and receiving help, and discerning what's right for me in my trajectory. And we're all plugging away one footstep at a time. So it's not for me to compare, what do they say? Compare and despair or something like that?
Yeah, I didn't mean to compare. I want to commend you for getting to the point where you're at. And I'm hoping that a lot of my listeners can get there probably faster than I can. I feel that I was just bombarded. But, the family situation is very unusual. Having a brother that's so dominating and so, such a bully, and then having another one that's very similar, and then having parents that were dysfunctional. And my sister is sort of out of it. And there's chemical problems as well with the ADHD. So it was just pounding on me. I mean, most people would have given up and, I don't know, kill themselves or go on the street or wind up in jail. But I had a fortitude. I just kept going, and I'm still going. But
I commend you for it. I commend you.
Yeah, it's a difficult time.
Yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's totally fine. But I just wanted to commend you for where you are. And my book is my own personal story, and there are really helpful exercises from what I've been told in the appendix. I put a little workbook together. So these were tools that I used going through what I've gone through, and I still use them. And they seem to be helping. So I'm just really grateful to have had the opportunity to have that book published and out in the world. And I'm profoundly grateful to be able to share my experience honestly with others. And I think that there's a beauty in all of our trudging.
Mm-hmm. So do you actively help people, like, professionally or socially? How does that work?
So I do coaching, but I always ask my people that come to me that they read the book first. Read the book, try out some of the workbook exercises, and if you still feel like you need my help, come on back and we'll have a conversation. So that's how I do it. And if people are drawn, I just invite them to my website, which is susangold.us. And you'll know if you're drawn or you're not drawn.
Mm-hmm.
But really check out that book because it's having a profound effect. It's almost been an activation for people.
Okay. You had mentioned you might want to do an exercise. Is there a quick one
we
could do?
Yeah, let's do this one. So just sit comfortably or stand, just pause and
That's not going to happen because I'm in the process of, like, moving the studio here and I don't have the right chair and everything. So I'm really bad right now, but go ahead, I'll try.
Well, wherever you are, stand in place or stop, pause for a moment, and just take a deep breath in and out, which serves to ground you a bit. And then take your hand and put it on your solar plexus. That's underneath your heart, sort of high ribs. And put your hand there and then just say to yourself or out loud, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's really okay.
It's really okay.
And that's a really simple tool and a simple exercise you can do almost anywhere. And it just really serves to ground and soothe. So I encourage everybody to take that one and use it often, like I do.
Yeah, it sounds good. I confess that I don't do that type of stuff that much. Like, I tried to meditate, but my mind is so racy. I just have a problem, and I think I should get back to things like that. But it's the motivation. So, I mean,
this one's a simple one. Use it as you like. Don't beat yourself up if you don't, but it's just a simple tool to pick up almost anywhere and any time. And I just really appreciate, Bob, the chance to have this conversation with you.
Oh, I enjoy it immensely.
Yeah, and the chance to engage with your listeners. And I just wish you all the best. And I just want to commend you for all you're doing to help yourself.
Thank you.
And to help others.
Now they can just contact you at susan.gold.com. Is that it? What is your website?
It's susangold.us. susangold.us.
Us. Okay. And the book is at Amazon and other places.
It is. Thank you so much. Yeah.
All right. That's great. And you are a really great guest, very easy to talk to. And I appreciate you coming on the show. I think it'll be a great show. I just wish you all the luck in the world, and hopefully we'll get to talk again.
I look forward to it. Take care, Bob.